Okay, so I hope everyone can hear us. There'll be a delay, of course, and not only delay but also echo. I have to. Okay, now there is no echo. I hope. Uh, okay. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I'll interrupt Sava because that's my trademark. I can still hear an echo. What's going on? Just a second. Yeah. Okay. Now there will be no echo. I promise. Anyways, I'll interrupt Sava because he's just a guest, and I'm known as a really rude person. But yeah, I'm really, really, really happy to have Sava here this time because, as I mentioned before in our during our promo activities, he and his crew have really marked the history of the event of the IFCC project in a very good way. This is why I like to call our deal that we had in 2017 as the best deal in the history of this industry, and it was such an amazing moment in my life when I look at it like this, because it really did change. It changed Sava's life, but it also changed the level of quality of the event itself. And the funny thing about this is that it happened it was the idea from both sides. At the same time, we were planning to contact each other to do something together. So I decided to invite Milan, Sava, and the rest of the crew to join our event as speakers, while at the same time they were planning to call me or ask me if I would be okay with them doing the 2017 main titles video for the event and for the IFCC 2017. And I remember, I never forget the moment when Sava sent me the link to the finished video. But since it was only few weeks before the event, I was totally going crazy with all the obligation, with the correspondence, with the attendees and speakers and so on, that I said oh yeah, I'll look at it in a minute, and then I just opened the tab and I didn't look at it for 1 or 2 days, and because I totally forgot, that he even sent anything, I was smashed with work. And then 2 days later I started noticing this tons and tons of comments, Sava, Milan, is your king, so that's the best thing ever. And I was like, well, what's going on? Really interesting. And then I remember, wait, he sent me the link to the video, and when I played it, it was oh my god, what is this, So yeah, Sava, welcome again after a long time. I'll give you a chance to speak now, finally. True, true story. Yeah, definitely. And actually, the reason why because Milan, your colleague, and the rest of the team, I don't think that Iz was at the IFCC before that, but everyone else was at the IFCC like a year or two before, and 2017 was actually your first time for the event. So I they can't hear you. Okay. Then I'll think you'll have to repeat everything that you said so far. So please forgive me. Yeah, it's my fault, guys. It's my fault. I just wanted to make this more interesting.
What about now?
Yeah, I think they can hear you now.
Is this working now? Let me see. Is this working now? Delay. Steven.
Yeah, they'll hear you for sure.
Let me see if they. There we go. Hey, there we go.
Yeah.
Oh, is Momo Milos? Who the fuck is Milos? I'm joking. Yeah, there we go. All right, so I'll just quickly repeat what I was saying. I was just saying to that massive introduction that Marco made. It was one of the funnest projects we've ever worked on. And one of the kind of the funnest parts for me was when we agreed to do the IFCC titles. Marco never saw a thing until we published the final thing. So the first time he saw the actual film was the finished version online, which was fairly fun on my end just to see that reaction. So yeah.
Yeah, and what I'll repeat myself. So the reason, I hope that people can hear me and didn't mess anything up. The reason that I invited the guys in the first place was their previous video, which was like equally amazing, but just not that epic as the IFCC main title was. But from technical point, it was also a great achievement. You had like a mocap there, with 3D modeling and the character model that you applied the mocap on. So I guess this was more like a proof of the concept for what was about to happen in the IFCC 2017 main titles video, I guess. I mean, of course, you probably didn't think about the main titles video back then, but
yeah, sort of. We sort of did when we were doing the Twitch thing that you're talking about now, the intro for Milan's Twitch stream, which he did once, and he never used our video, which was always fun. But we had so much fun making that. But when we did that one, we really just wanted to do something that we've never done before. So going into a character pipeline and a whole kind of a cinematic trailery approach to things, which I was really drawn to doing. So we did that. That was our kind of the goal with that one. But once we've done that, and once we've made a connection with the guys who are running the motion capture studio, and kind of seeing that there is room to improve and to do something else, we were definitely planning from the very get-go. We had an idea of doing a short, which at the time we just didn't know it was going to be merged with the conference. So while we were kind of talking about the idea, we realized that one of the, in my mind, kind of, because we were fairly new to the scene in that time, we both Milan was in the concept art industry, but myself and his were kind of, and the Nenad and Mihailo, whoever worked on it, we were coming from a bit of a different field of architecture and like 3D in general. So we thought of merging the film with the title, with the conference that deals in concept art more, so we can kind of hopefully enter that world. And luckily we were able to kind of.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to fix the problem with this. So this what we see now in the background is the process of the bounty hunt, because like every time you also do the making of video for every of your projects, right?
Yeah, but I think, what I'm seeing on YouTube is, I think this is Soren Zaragoza, not, yeah.
But I think that this is part of your video, actually. Just a second.
No, this is Soren's art station, I think.
I'll let you know.
Soren is another amazing artist and a friend of mine. We collaborated together on that one bounty hunt short. But yeah, this is I'm seeing his station.
Actually, it's part of the video. It's actually part of the video where someone is scrolling through
Oh
the.
shit! Oh yeah, no, yeah, that's my process video
Yeah,
of the thing.
yeah,
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 yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
yeah. Okay, let me just take care of something here.
Sure.
Today I'm alone with all these technical things here. Anyways, after you're done, you've been free of the IFCC project, the video and everything. And when you join the event, I don't remember correctly, but I kind of feel that some people were there already from Access Animation, who kind of came to meet you there. Was it something like that, or?
I mean, I'm not entirely sure if that was the case or not. I mean, I know there were people from Axis there. I'm not entirely sure if the purpose was specifically so we can meet, but yeah, Bram Sells was there, and was it somebody else? John wasn't there that year.
I think which one is John? The guy with the beard?
John Beeston, yeah, John
Yeah,
Beeston
yeah,
is the head of art.
Yeah, I'm not sure, to be honest. Maybe he came the next year.
No, he definitely came on the next year because we were there together. But I think in the first year was just Bram Sells, and then there are a couple of people who worked with Axis before. I think Igor the Black Frog.
Yeah,
Igor
Chevalier. Yeah.
He worked with Axis a couple of times I think. But yeah. But yeah, it was an amazing experience for me. I mean, I've been on a couple of kind of CG conferences before, not specifically concept art conferences, and this was a completely different ballpark, especially since kind of I mean it's in Croatia, it's kind of right next door, so it's a lot of the similar vibe that we have here. So it was felt more a bit like home. Yeah, it was really a unique experience.
So the next video was, if I remember correctly, it was the main titles for Playgrounds.
Right? Yeah, sort of in a way. Yeah, if you want to look at them as like bigger things I've done. There were a couple of smaller things in between. If I remember correctly, I've done a couple of things in between IFCC and Playgrounds. There's been that one really short ident for Is with the spaceship coming down. There's been Icons, which was a kind of architectural kind of motion design piece that I've done for a competition for CG Architect. And then towards the end of that year, it was the titles for Playgrounds.
What I like about you as a director and actually, what I liked about you as a director is that you're also a CG artist. It makes if it makes sense, because when I saw the Playgrounds main titles video, I realized that you're actually very good at, because you did the robot there, right, in that video.
In Playgrounds, I did absolutely everything.
Yeah, so
visually.
This was the moment where I realized, oh, like, it's not just directing, I mean, I know that you did a lot for the IFCC regarding, like rendering and the terrain generation, if I remember correctly.
Sure, yeah.
Back then you were using for terrain World Creator or
World
Machine.
Yeah.
And so like us who like to experiment with a lot of software are kind of okay, like this is procedural, like this is doable.
Yeah.
But then when I saw you doing the robot for the Playgrounds video, I realized that you have like really good sense of design, and I guess I would say, because the design of that robot, these are like only combination of primitives, let's say, basic shapes, so it's more like it's kind of Star Wars looking droid kind of thing, at least from my perspective, but it just fits, it works, everything works well, and everything about that video was amazing. And to be honest, when I saw that video, I was like, wow, like, I mean, it was like, I maybe even like this one better than ours, because it
Yeah,
was so simple idea but so effective.
that was a really fun one to make. I mean, I'm not, I wouldn't call myself like a concept artist or anything similar. I can do some things, but I'm nowhere near as good as the guys who actually do that for a living. But yeah, that's kind of the thing with the whole like animation side of it. You have to be able to know a bit of everything to be able to pull something like that off. And it was a very different experience from IFCC. IFCC was, I think, around 6 months of production. It was the first time we were doing something on that scale and trying to figure things out and trying to figure out the pipelines and everything like that. But then with Playgrounds was super simple. Let me see. Is there echo? No? I've
Yeah.
heard there was echo before, but I think it's fine. All right, that's fine. Um, but yeah, with playgrounds, I mean, one of the things, and this is not me like boasting about it, because looking back at that title sequence, I could have done a lot more things to it to really make it a bit more polished, because you can see it's kind of rushed in a few areas. But that whole title sequence was completed in, I think, like just a little over 3 weeks. It was like 25 days or something, 25 days of me completely, fully working on it by myself. But a lot of it is very simple, like the approach with animation, because I knew I wasn't going to have enough time to go into the whole motion capture pipeline. The one thing I'm really bad at in 3D is character animation. I really can't do anything about it. That's why I rely on motion capture. But with this project, like, I still wanted to have characters in, and I had an image in my head of kind of the hitchhikers on a highway, kind of holding up signs, and the signs reveal the speakers' names. So I still want to have characters, but I can't have realistic animations. So that kind of constraint informed me to go with the robots, because robots I can animate. It's just like joints going like this. It's nothing like, you
There's
don't have
no
like those, you
skinning and
know.
that kind of stuff.
Yeah. No skinning. It's just linking. It's super simple rigs. And that's one of the things that was kind of unique to most of our projects that we've done up until that point. It's kind of, with everything you try to do with a small team, you always have a vast set of constraints that kind of dictate what you can and what you can't do. And once you kind of are able to push past those constraints and think about like other creative ways to kind of circumvent them, that leads to the most interesting solutions in my mind. So that was like, the robots was never a part of the initial concept for Playgrounds. It was going to be humans, but then I didn't have resources to actually pull off humans. So I went like, all right, I'm just going to do robots. So that's one of the kind of interesting things there.
Okay, now let me explain to everyone something that I have to say. It's not related to you, it's related to our stream. So just to explain, that when I'm doing this kind of interviews with my friends, I'm often like doing it totally alone. So it's very often it's like the last minute preparations, and this is why from time to time you can hear an echo. And the reason is because I'm handling like multiple source for the audio and that kind of stuff. So right now we couldn't find a better solution to present Sava's work, because it's most of it it's like video stuff, animated stuff. So what I'm actually doing, I'm playing it from his video account. So like every time that video ends, I have to go and set up new window for the next video, because it just stops and doesn't play in the next one, as I wanted. And the echo thing is related to his, when you see him on the video, I get the sound from his Skype as well, and then I turn it off and so on. Never mind, so just bear with us. Now, so another thing that I really like about you is the way that you approach to your work as a professional. And what I mean by that, you are very organized. You are like everything that I'm not, in that sense. So you.
I wouldn't say so, but please continue.
Yeah. So it sounds good, right? Feels good. No, what I wanted to say, I have a feeling that you, when you start working on something, you just you start developing a plan for it. You break it down to all the segments that need to be done, and then you don't stop until everything is done, at least for this, let's say, very important projects. And this is why at least that's the sense I got from it, because everything that I follow that you're doing, and this is mostly things that you've come out to public with, like this Mental's videos and that Bounty Hunter and that kind of stuff. So, and it was like done so fast. It was just done so fast. I mean, even for the IFCC video, 6 months is not so much. It's not a lot of time to do such video. Okay, it was like 5 or 6 of you in the team, I think, and with the help of the studio for mocap and everything. But it's still huge amount of time. So even when you're working alone, you get it done. Even when you're working in team, you get it done. And working in team, people sometimes don't understand then when you're working in team and the team is not actually paid, you can't tell them you won't get the money if you don't do a job. It's really hard to find such team to finish such project, and to be together for 6 months, to work on it. I mean, so can you provide some insights on the process and all this?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there's a few questions in there. I think for one of the things is I'm very lucky in a lot of ways where I do have, like, my team is my friends. We've known each other for a long time, and we really wanted to do something together. So once we've slowly done that. Like it wasn't like the IFCC was our first thing that we've done together and then everything kind of came together there. We've done a couple of things before that were each kind of more and more advanced and complex than the previous one. So by doing that, we were kind of able to slowly build into it and slowly kind of feel how we all work together and kind of what can and what can't be done. It's a lot of that is not like still a lot of that is not. It is a huge team effort, but it's not like all of us working 6 months together all the time. It's pretty much because it's a passion project. It's all done in free time, and it's all done whenever people have time, essentially. And like with Milan, for example, I mean, he did the concepts for the IFCC very, very early on, and then pretty much like until the end of the project, he was kind of off the hook. And weight fell on my shoulders to do all the most of the 3D stuff and rendering and stuff like that. So it's it's things like that. It's not always. It's similarly to like the parallel at Axis what we have now. It's not if you have a team of 50 people, you're not gonna have all of them working at the same time constantly throughout the production. Like sometimes you'll just have 10 people on. There will be times where maybe you'll have 50 people for a week, but then it's not a full-on kind of span during the whole production. Regarding like the whole organization thing, I wouldn't call myself organized at all. I know Momo is here in the comments. There was a kind of a fun moment where we spoke with Momo a couple of months ago. Momo from Learn Squared. And he was saying kind of a similar thing, like how we are organized, and when people think about approaching the short films, it's not just sitting down and making them. You have to make a plan first, and then you have to break everything down and follow each step. And to be perfectly honest, like that's not really how I work. I kind of just start and then I just sit down for 5 months and I finish, and that's it. I mean, it's sort of simple to me, I guess, but it's.
You could just say, Marco, you're right.
Not really. No, I'm really not really well organized person. Like I don't have like my calendars, meetings set up. I don't have my alarms kind of reminding me of what I need to do at any given time. I kind of just do the work that I need to do when I feel like doing it, which is most of the time, luckily.
You know what I started using after I saw your breakdown video? It
Sure.
was that little app, like online app for like mind mapping. What's the name of it? I always forget the name.
Coggle.
Yeah, Coggle. I saw
Coggle.
that and like, okay, I need this. Like, what's this? Because I haven't been using mind maps before. I
Yeah.
mean the interactive ones.
It's really good. I've learned that one from one of Ash Thorpe's tutorials, lessons on Learn Squared, and it was amazing. So yeah, that helped out a lot. I'm just gonna say hi to Antonio Esparza, my brother from Spain, my brother from another mother. Hi, Tony. Um, but yeah. So that's the. I mean, that would probably be like my kind of answer regarding the whole organizational side of things. I'm really not that organized, and there is one more thing that's fairly important, and I do talk a bit about that in my upcoming IFCC lesson,
Oh yeah,
but
the Sava will be with us at the IFCC again. This time online, but
sure.
still.
I've actually just finished the video today, so it's done, exported, and I just need to rewatch it again just to make sure there are no accidental f bombs or anything like that, and I'll just send that to Marco, and you
So
guys should have
if
that.
anyone wants to see it before the start of the event, I'll just send you my PayPal account and we can work it out.
Yeah.
Anyways, but since we mentioned your team, I think it would be like really good to mention all their names. Because this is also another situation where it just happened that all of you who are like really talented and hardworking individuals are also friends at the same time in the same place. It was just a great match for you to do great things.
Sure. So yeah, I mean, my lifelong friends are all pretty much in the chat right now, making mayhem. Uh, so he goes by in the chat. His name is Nebojsa Jež, which it's Nebojsa. But he is his actual his artist name is Femira. He's the composer and the performer in all of our short films. Then we have obviously Milan Nikolic, who is the designer and concept artist behind everything we do. Mikhailo Radošević, who is a modeler, and he helped us with the IFCC character and props and for Freight. And then we have Nadam Merzel, who also made the spaceship for the IFCC film, and I hope I'm not forgetting anybody. Antonio, who I've already mentioned. Antonio made the character for Freight.
There was a lady. There was a lady with you on stage.
Yeah, Christina. So Christina is from Take One, which is that motion capture company that we work with. So she doesn't work at Take One anymore, but Christina was she's our friend, and she introduced us to Take One essentially. So we kind of that was the kind of the bridge between the collaboration and how it started happening.
Is she still into any kind of production related to
Sure, yeah, she's working with Ubisoft Belgrade now at the moment. I think for over a year or something like that. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah.
Cool. So let's move on. So the process was really. I think like a huge step for all of you. You probably haven't done anything like that together before. You probably did do a lot of architectural visualization before, which we'll come back to. But it was probably the most maybe even stressful project by far until then. But then you got into something. The doors opened and you got into something else, like in something totally different, which is like really the world of commercial production for huge games and whatnot. So can you give us some insights on that as well?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't. First off, I wouldn't say IFCC was stressful. I mean, it certainly had like times, little small pockets where it was kind of like I was feeling it, but it wasn't really like the way I remember that project. That's the most important part. I mean, for pretty much any project you do, is you're gonna have certain moments that are gonna go not so well. But my entire memory of that thing is like still up to this day is kind of the most fun thing I've ever done, probably. But yeah, that opened up a lot of doors, and one of those that I'm really grateful for is the kind of introduction to Access Studios, where I've been working professionally as a director ever since. What was that? Late 2017. And yeah, that was a bit of a. I mean, in a lot of ways, it was a big learning curve at the beginning, but then it kind of settles. I mean, I'm still learning a ton there, but it's a lot of that stuff is really the stuff that I kind of wanted to do from the very get-go. When we did our IFCC project and pretty much any other project, and even to this day, whenever we do our personal projects, I still, because my background is as a CG artist, I enjoy certain aspects of actually making the thing, like actually production wise, but it doesn't come nowhere near close to the kind of the core idea of the project and the initial creative phase of the project. And that's really what I really wanted to do. So being at Axis now really allows me to do that, where I don't have to worry about production. We have a team of amazing artists to support us. And all I have to do is kind of worry about the creative side of things and to satisfy the client's creative needs, the studio's creative needs, and my personal creative needs. And then it's all down to communicating all that to the team who have to execute all of that stuff. And that's really like, I mean, to me, it's a dream job in a way, because I kind of have I have a lot of time on the side to do my other personal stuff as well. So yeah, that's kind of, I guess, just a little bit of the answer to your question.
So, like, my conclusion for this story would be, I mean, it sounds a bit cheesy, but if you have a plan that you kind of believe in, definitely try, to proceed with it, because it could pay off. It doesn't mean it will, but it could pay off, because Sava, for example, because you're a guest today, but Sava before that project, before that video, and Sava after that video is actually, to be honest, you're actually not the same person from the negotiation perspective when applying for a job somewhere, because this is you have proven yourself on something which everyone has seen, and then someone approached you, not someone,
yeah,
but many have approached you. And if you didn't have that, and it was all about really good planning, like why you want to do that project, you weren't getting paid, none of you guys were getting paid, but it was a good plan. It was like, people will see this and we will do it the best we can, and it paid off.
Yeah, I mean, it most certainly did. I mean, it's one of those things as well where I think it's like there's a bit of honesty and purity in that. The way we approached making the IFCC film is not. We most certainly wanted to do something else and get something out of that project, but that wasn't our main goal. Like, I mean, the whole point of doing that film was to kind of express ourselves into trying to do something else. And we weren't necessarily expecting to get the things that we got, or that I got. I most certainly wasn't planning on, I'm going to make this and then I'm going to expect to be hired as a director after that. I think if you do that, you're kind of setting the expectations too high, and you might not meet those expectations, and then you can get hit really hard, like with the rejection and I don't know, depression or whatever, depending on what kind of a character you are. So just kind of approaching it from the perspective of, I'm going to do this project and I'm going to have as much fun as I possibly can by making it. And I'm going to learn a lot of new things. And then if something happens after that, great. If nothing happens, that's fine too. Like, I'm just going to continue doing what I was doing before, or I'm going to continue pushing forward and kind of improving. So that was definitely our approach. We never expected anything out of this, or at least to the level that it kind of manifested. And that made it that much more kind of shocking when it did happen, when all these calls for specifically like directing opportunities happened. I just was shocked because I just wasn't expecting that at all. Yeah.
I know that so during the 2017, but also 2018, you guys were among those who were in high demand, and Max Berman was at the event as well. The guy, one of the guys behind the Kid Bash 3D project. And so he also approached you and your colleagues. So you also, like, few of you, I think two of you did something for the you did this really cool video that we have seen parts of a few minutes ago. And then, but you were not the only one. Others also contributed to the Kid Bash 3D project as well.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, for that video, the video itself, the Kid Bash 3D flagship video, that was done entirely by me regarding like all the animation stuff, and did the music and sound again. But then Mihailo and Nenad were modeling some of the kits that I used in that cinematic. So yeah, it was all kind of correlated and kind of we were all cross involved.
Cool.
And yeah, and it's not just Kid Bash stuff. I mean, Iz worked on 2-axis cinematics with me when he did the music for the 2-axis cinematics that I've directed, and Milan is actually doing something with Axis as well at the moment, but we can't talk about that, but we could in the future. So yeah, everything is kind of coming together slowly.
In the meantime, Milan and the guys, and I'm not sure if you were behind this as well, involved in this as well, because obviously you were working for the Axis, but they became a studio. They formed a studio.
Milan.
Yeah, Milan and others.
Sure. Yeah. They have their own Masra Studios set up where they do Jesus Christ, not graphic design, concept design, not graphic design. He's gonna kill me for this. They do concept design, concept art, consulting, art direction, all that good stuff.
I mean, I hope that no one from graphic design world will be offended. I know that Gabriel Buitrago is here.
I'm not saying anything bad about graphic design. Don't get me wrong. It's just vastly different from what they're doing.
Well, it didn't sound like that. Anyways.
I'm sorry.
Anyways, so yeah, but of course, it's just a joke. Anyways, do you have any more time for your personal project these days?
I do. They are getting a bit more expensive and the kind of longer to do every time we do them. So in a lot of ways, there's kind of even more time now, to be honest, because the way my work relationship with Axis works is I live in Belgrade still. Axis is based in UK. And Glasgow is the main office, but they have offices in London and Bristol. But I work remotely for most of the time. Whenever I'm involved with the project, if the project is running for maybe 4 months, I will be on site a couple of key moments in the production, maybe during the beginning, the middle, and the end. And that's only like a week or maybe 2 weeks of visits. And all of the other time is just supervising remotely from home, from my little home office. And that means like a lot of the times it's not even a full-time job. Sometimes it's the full-time job for the first month or two of production, and then it becomes a bit of a part-time job when you're kind of just supervising stuff. So that allows me for more free time because I can kind of just do my own things. And I work on a per project basis, which means that I have some downtime in between projects. So sometimes that downtime can be a bit longer. And again, because of where I live, I can sustain myself for a bit longer periods of time. And that allows me to focus completely and fully on my personal work. And that's what's amazing. That's one of the if you want to call it my secret weapon, it's as fairly close to getting one. It's kind of like you have all of this free time and you don't have to worry about work in a lot of ways, and you can just your personal projects don't become like a side thing that you're doing, like chipping away slowly. It becomes something that you're working full time on and you're focusing fully. So that's why if you want to call our projects fast, that's probably why they're happening fast, is because I personally am, a lot of times I'm able to kind of devote my full time and attention to completing them.
Okay. What's happening with your? I mean, is your like ArcViz history just a history for you? Is that something that you will be coming back to?
I'm gonna say it's a history at this point. I'm not gonna completely like close the doors, because depending on how interesting a project is, I would definitely want to be a part of. I mean, at heart, like I'm drawn to moving images. I'm drawn to like animations and film. So whatever the actual subject matter of that is, I don't really care that much, as long as I can kind of express my style and my sensibilities in it. So if a project that is ArcViz related should come my way and meets kind of my own sensibilities, I would definitely like to be a part of it. But I will say that I'm way more drawn these days to character driven stuff and traditional kind of film driven stuff and stories.
Okay. What else? Have you noticed any questions from the stream? I'm fighting here with your Vimeo account, so you help me out if you see anything useful.
Oh, that's fine. No, I haven't seen any questions. I have a bunch of questions. Well, not even a bunch. I have a couple of questions on my Instagram.
Uh-huh. Oh,
So
yeah,
we can go into those if
definitely.
we
So
have time. But I don't know how you want to run this. Yeah.
no, it's everything is fine. So I mean, maybe you can explain that about your like monthly ask me anything uh, thing that you have going on.
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing crazy behind it. It's just there's that option on Instagram, and I decided to try using it for a while. I'm kind of, I don't know, I can get pretty lazy at Instagram and just kind of post things, but I wanted to kind of engage more with people. And it also comes with this, I guess, after a while of working and just doing things specifically related to the work, and you're not really trying to explain what you do to somebody, but when you try to explain, I think I've heard this, I definitely heard this from Ash somewhere on his podcast, but when you try to kind of explain things to somebody or teach somebody something that you do, you immediately realize how much you know or you don't know. So it was a bit of a test for me as well, as just to see kind of how can I explain certain things. But it was also a bit of a build up to the whole, because we've talked about doing this IFCC online thing, and I've never recorded a video tutorial before. I mean, I'm not gonna call this a tutorial. It's not really a tutorial. It's just me kind of rambling more about my thoughts and processes rather than actual technical bits. But I really wanted to kind of use that stuff on Instagram to kind of build me up towards making this video. So first it was answering the questions, and then I started making these little small videos that I do now that just kind of partly inspired by Ian Hubert, because his like lazy tutorials are like the best thing I've seen last year.
That was a breath of fresh air, definitely.
Oh yeah, that was amazing. But I can't be him. Like I can't do the funny thing, and I don't have that sense of humor. So I'm just gonna go full on serious with this shit. So yeah, that was all done as a bit of a preparation for me actually sitting down and talking 1 hour straight, which eventually turned into 5 days of recording and trying to not sound stupid. So yeah, that's it.
So now I realize why you decided to become like a successful director, because you're a Serbian without a sense of humor. Like that's like really rare, you know. So I guess you had to be like really good at something then if you don't have humor in you. But okay. Anyways, Let's see. Let me just check if.
I've seen a couple of questions actually. I've just been looking the YouTube, but there's a Twitch thing as well.
Oh, Twitch. Let's
Uh,
see. Let's see what's going on.
Let me see. So Nicola, hey Nicola, has a question regarding. I have a question. What is your process of choosing camera angles? How do you decide which is going to be in motion, which are going to be static? So I'll say a short answer is I talk about all of this stuff in my IFCC video that's going to be coming up in May. What's the date for that, Marco?
25th of May. We still have to see when we'll put you in a schedule, but 25th of May until 30th of May. It's 6 days of the program. So.
Sure, cool. And a bit of a longer answer to that question is just it all depends on the moment in the story and how you want to portray that moment. I wouldn't say there's no particular rule on when you specifically need to have your camera static or in motion. It's pretty much like what feels good to you as a filmmaker in that moment of the story. So if you take Freight, for example, the moment where he kind of slams the handle and slams his case down, and we cut to that wide shot of him just silhouetted by the tunnels, that was very specifically left locked on, where I just didn't want to have any motion and just wanted to completely focus on the character performance and the kind of the nature of the moment, the kind of the downbeat nature of the moment. So it all depends on your personal sensibilities, and the story to me always dictates how and when I will kind of choose my camera. And then Ian Vickner says, from where then do you do idealizations of the script? So that is also, again, short answer. I talk about all of that stuff in my upcoming IFCC video. But a lot of the ideas that we do, it always comes from collaboration, and I always kind of on at least the personal short films that I've done with for IFCC and Freight. It was all done in collaboration with Milan and Iz, and all three of us kind of just have a couple of beers. We start talking about some of the current themes in our lives, and then we try to identify what kind of metaphors can we transform in the story of the film. That's the medium-sized answer, I guess.
I'm just watching this playgrounds video, and for example, something that I always fight with when I'm doing my own visuals for my personal projects, which I never publish, but it's more like a practice. I'm always struggling with filling out the scene. If it's something like out in open, and I see like in this process, this HDRI image that you were using, actually it really helps out. How would I say this? To give I mean, not just the lighting that it gives, but it also you use it in the environment as well.
Oh yeah. Well, that's because I'm lazy and I didn't have the time to do anything more complex. Mostly because I didn't have the time to do anything more complex. But yes, if this is an HDRI from, I think it's No Emotion, and it's super high res, so it can hold up at like full HD resolutions. So if you just have foggy enough environments and you don't see much, you can get away. Yeah. You can totally get away with it, which I did. I mean, ideally you'd had matte projections and stuff like that, but again, I did that thing in like 3.5 weeks or something. So there's only so much you can do in that amount of time.
Let's talk a bit about software and the tools, if you can.
Yes, the most boring conversation of all.
Yes, the most boring conversation of all. But you know how many geeks are there in the stream watching this and all this. So I think that everyone will appreciate it. But
sure. I'll just briefly mention a couple, and then I'll probably want to go to the questions.
Things have changed since 2016, 15, 16, and 17. I remember back then,
yeah,
you were like deep into 3ds Max. Octane
I'm
was a
still, I'm
renderer.
still.
Hmm.
Oh yeah. So I'm still using for my productions when I'm doing my personal shorts. I'm using 3ds Max as my main 3D package. It's just something that I've been using for many years, and I'm the most comfortable with. I rendered in V-Ray originally years and years ago, and then I switched to using Octane, which I've used for IFCC and a lot of the early stuff that we've done. And Octane was like fucking amazing. It was a game changer. Like to me, that was the biggest hindrance that I had back in the day was when everything was CPU based and animations just took so much time to render. And every time I would think about an idea for a project, there was always 10 different technical difficulties of how am I going to render this. But then when Octane came in, it was just the rendering was just something I didn't even think about. It was just like, all right, I can render pretty much everything I want. Then I changed that to Redshift. I'm using Redshift nowadays. I still think Octane is amazing. I don't want to do the whole render wars discussion, but I do find Redshift a bit more fit for my current needs. Where the main thing that I love about Redshift is the out of core memory, where I don't really have to worry about the size of my scenes. I still have my old they're not that old. I mean, there are a couple. I had this machine from 2016, so yeah, 4 years now, which is could be quite a lot. But I have four 980 Ti's, and like now with all the new graphics cards, these can be considered old, but they still work like beautifully. I mean, for freight, my average render times were around 2 minutes, and that's like stupid fast. And the scenes were super heavy. We had multiple UDIMs, and it all renders with no problems because Redshift has this really smart way of how it handles all the geometry and textures.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's my quick technical ramble.
I'm watching now. We see on the screen some scenes from another video. Uh, Another question, which is more technical. Okay, I don't know if you have also used the world machine for this terrain. Maybe not, but
No, that's all matte painting and projection. So that's the only time I've used matte painting. This is actually done as part of Max Berman's Learn Squared
mhm.
class. So I took the class because I really wanted to try out the kind of the matte painting technique.
Because I see.
Uh,
I'm talking more about the things that are in front, like
no, it's all projection. You
okay,
see right
okay.
there. You see right there when it zooms out. It's all projected.
Hmm.
It's just the
Hmm.
texture that's projected in 3D
Cool.
space, and it only works from the camera angle. You can't
So,
go.
so in that situation, you would use like all the available maps, not just the color map, all the available maps, and you would just project them,
Yeah,
because
yeah, but it
we
is it
see
is
all these
essentially
like realistic tiny pebbles and that kind of stuff, and dirt and stone and
yeah.
reflection. So,
But it's all that's the thing. Like it's not really reflecting anything. It's just like all of those planes you see in that wireframe.
mhm.
It's all just planes on which I projected my 2D images, and there's no like materials on them. There's no bump or normals or anything like
Okay,
that.
so that's just
Uh,
brain playing tricks with us.
yeah. It's the typical matte painting technique, and you would do this in Nuke
Nuke,
because Nuke
yes, Nuke
is
3D.
amazing. But I don't have Nuke, and Nuke is fucking expensive. So I just did it in 3ds Max and
Well,
Octane, and
you can use Fusion inside of DaVinci Resolve, which is free, and it's very similar. But
yeah. But I like using things that work for me already, and I don't
yeah,
wanna.
of course, of course. No,
If it works, it works.
Nuke is the proven solution for like that has
It
been used
is. It
for
is.
years and years in a lot of films, and
It
so.
really is. It's just again like the thing is for my specific needs. Like I don't need anything that's super complex. Like the reason why Nuke costs so much and why it's good at what it does is because it's made for large studio pipelines that can handle like tons and tons of VFX plates and live action plates and everything like that.
Well,
And
a lot of such software, including Nuke, if I'm not mistaken, were actually made specifically for a particular film project, and
sure,
then
sure,
were
yeah.
developed further. So
Yeah,
and
and for me, like
transformed them. Yeah.
I don't have to deal with that stuff when I do my personal projects. It's usually pretty simple, and well, I just use After Effects to kind of like stack up the layers and do some color grading, and that's kind of it. I don't need super complex stuff. Um, so yeah.
Okay, let's see what else we got. Okay, let's.
Tell me when you.
We
I mean,
we can.
I can do like I don't have any time constraints.
Me
I can do
neither.
more.
Me neither.
Yeah.
So I mean, I was planning to have like 1 minute, one not minute, 1 hour session, but we can extend like for 10, 20 minutes, 1 hour. It doesn't matter. Anyways, maybe we can jump already to your monthly Q&A thing. Ask me anything thing or whatever it is called.
Sure,
So
we'll do. I'll just pull up a couple of questions. I don't have that many this time around. But let's see. Free resources to learn from as a beginner, intermediate, and as advanced in this field. I would again caveat it depends which field, but if you're talking about like CG specifically, um, I'm gonna list a couple of ones that most people know, I think, anyway. But Video Copilot has amazing free tutorials for all things After Effects and some 3D stuff as well. Grayscale Gorilla has like millions of free tutorials for Cinema 4D. Intagma has amazing Houdini stuff, which is more design based, but still quite relevant. And that's all for free. A couple of other really cool resources. Learn Squared is also, I think they're still offering their the first lesson of any class is offered for free because of the COVID-19 situation. So that's absolutely amazing. I would definitely say, like for more creative thinking and stuff like that, listen to Collective Podcast with Ash Thorpe. He brings on a lot of amazing guests, and they share all kinds of different knowledge. But I would say like those would be kind of the top platforms that I would suggest. And then, I mean, a lot of the other stuff is obviously paid, but you can always like you can't get that much advanced tutorials that are completely free. There's really good if you're pursuing VFX and or FX specifically. There's a really good platform called Rebelway, and they focus on Houdini. It's a paid mentorship, but they walk you through everything, and it's I've heard really good things. I have a couple of friends from Access actually that
can you repeat the name?
Rebelway.
Okay.
Rebel Way. So they do mostly effects stuff in Houdini, and I had a couple of my effects friends from Axis. They've done some lessons for the website. All right. I'm just gonna say John. I can't say your full name, man. I'm sorry. Olubun John. I'm sorry. So when you plan to do a short film, how do you stay disciplined from the idea to the final stage, editing, and how do you keep going? I mean, I don't know what kind of a clear answer can I give on this. I think typically, if the idea is not right for me, I would never start even start working on the project. Usually, whenever we start talking about the ideas and doing something, we get so hyped and so kind of excited about the project that we pretty much can't stop. I mean, I know it sounds like a bit of a, I don't know, cliche answer or something, but I have a different problem. I have a problem of not being able to stop and not being able to balance out my life. Like at times I'll just be sitting in front of the computer until I'm completely wasted. So so I'm really not the person to answer this, but I will say it really depends on the project that you're doing. If you feel like there's kind of this pushback or kind of not the willingness to do the project is not there, I would be honest with myself and ask if this is the thing that I really want to do in the first place. But that, again, it's a tricky answer because that being said, even though you might be completely in love with the project and be completely passionate about it, you'll still get that pushback at times. So I don't know. I guess I just keep focused on the angle and keep at it task at a time. And if you think about it that way, just it's not one big thing. It's many small tasks that you need to solve one after another that could potentially help. And he actually asked a follow-up question on here on YouTube. To back up the question I asked on Instagram, how do you get to a place in the project where you get uninspired? No, do you ever get to a place in the project where you get uninspired? From the creative perspective, no. From the production perspective, yes. I've essentially, the thing about making an animated short film or short film of any kind is there's this balance where when you start working on it and you get to a point where you've finished your previs and your previs works, you've essentially, in a way, you've made your film because it conveys the message that you want to tell, and it works. It just sucks visually. It's ugly to look at because it's just stiff animations and placeholder assets. And then the rest of the project is just production. So it's like the creative part is the first 10%, and then the remaining 90% is just making everything look nice, is modeling everything, texturing, rendering, all that more technical side of things that gets a bit more, repetitive. So I do oftentimes get stuck in that, not in a way that I just completely stop working. It's just that, for example, like you have 5 scenes in your short film, and then you start modeling the first scene, and you finalize it, you make the renders, and you're like, yes, I'm happy with this. Like you get to a point where you finish something, and then you go like, oh shit, I have 4 more to do. Like that's the stuff that gets me a bit uninspired because it's just a repetitive technical nature that you have to finish, but you just have to push through it because that's the only way you get to do this. So yeah. John is fine. That's cool. All right. Let's see. So this might be interesting and relevant to me. Rodrigo Cascas asked, which are the points you considered essential to go from ArcViz to work at Access Studios or kind of similar projects like that? And I would say a lot of that is, it boils down to personal work because you have to show that you can finish stuff like this. It's not, you can't just pray if you're not if you're a self-made director and you're not kind of schooled and you don't have anything else going for you. You have to show that you have what it takes to finish projects like these. And I'm gonna say that one of the probably most important kind of factors in me getting a kind of director's job is the fact that I was able to show on IFCC a couple of key things. I was able to show that I had an idea and a vision for a project that I was able to finish. I was able to work with teams of people and direct a team of people, which essentially becomes your job later on. You have to, when you go into higher productions, your CGI skills don't matter at all because you're not going to be using them. You're going to be using your communication skills, and essentially you're going to be leading a team. So you have to display in some way that you can already do that. And some of the key things was that for IFCC, we had a motion capture shoot. We've worked with an actor, and we've displayed, or I've displayed that I can work with an actor on set. And that's really important because, again, that's a big part of your job. So showing a couple of those key moments is really, really important. And then, again, on top of that, you have directing style and your visual style and your art direction sensibilities and a lot of different layers to the whole thing. So it's something that requires a lot of time to develop. You all right, Marco?
Yeah. I'm just all
right, so I'm just
listening and learning.
So there's this question. Just let me see what's happening. Hey, Rodrigo is here. No worries, Rodrigo. I'm glad that's helpful. Um, Let me see. All right, so we have lighting and storytelling, and I'm not sure if this comes from Ranem. I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly, but that's always going to be the case. So I'm sorry, but I don't know if you mean lighting and storytelling specifically tied to one another. There is also, I'm going to sound like a broken record, man, but there's a section in my upcoming IFCC video where I talk a lot about lighting and especially lighting for storytelling. But like with on the technical side of things with lighting, I don't really, I'm not a technical artist in that sense. I just kind of play with lights until I get an image that I like for whatever reasons. I typically like darker stuff, so I would usually just start with like a top-down light and then fill it out with rim lights or bounce lights. And a lot of that is kind of, again, just based on your own sensibilities. My process kind of involves a lot of post work as well. So whatever I do to an image in my 3D software, I would always enhance vastly in the post-production with many layers of grading. So I would never look at the image that I do in my 3D software as being nowhere near as final, and that's why I purposefully kind of make the images just a bit more flatter in 3D, and then I do all the kind of post-production-y contrast and grading stuff in post. And then I mean with storytelling is just kind of for first off is figuring out what kind of a story you want to tell and what the story is about, and that then after that kind of merging that with your direction for the lighting that you want to take. Is the story itself dark? Does it make sense to go with darker lights, or do you want to juxtapose those images by having something lighter? It's all up to you, honestly, and your personal tastes. Again, similarly to the camera framing and animation and kind of motion, with lights, it's also important to kind of, again, reflect the moments of the story that you want to tell. Like maybe at this specific moment, you don't want to see everything. You don't want to see your character fully. That's certainly the case in a lot of the work that I do. I don't really want to see all of the detail. I like hiding things in shadows. And that also helps me with my productions because I can hide a lot of the mistakes in the shadows as well, which has worked quite well thus far. But yeah, it's essentially just kind of feeling out the moment and how you want to portray that moment. I'll also say, like, I don't generally want to overlight things because that's one of the things in CG that makes it immediately look like CG. I mean, I'm not gonna say like with any work that we've done thus far that it's like completely photorealistic. It's not. It's far from it. You can tell. But there's a lot of the things where if you overlight your stuff, it'll kind of immediately give away its CGI makings because you're kind of showing a bit too much. So yeah, I would say keep the if that fits to your story and to your styles, keep the lights to the minimum and try to tell your stories with those. Did you went to faculty for 3D? No, I did not. I've went to Belgrade Faculty of Applied Arts, which I studied interior and furniture design, and that kind of transitioned me into the whole 3D world. But no, it was actually an arts background, and that's I would definitely say that's kind of important because like 3D stuff in software you can pick up on that fairly easy, especially nowadays. But yeah, all of your art foundations are much more valuable, I would say. Let's see. Based on your experience, what's more important in the industry, 3D modeling or an animator? I wouldn't really know what to say. I don't really know how to give a clear answer on this because it's if I'm gonna use my example at Axis, I don't really have an overview of the kind of HR hiring stuff. So I really wouldn't know what to say. It depends a lot. Just as a little plug, if you are an animator, Axis is currently hiring for animators. So maybe there's an answer for you right there. But yeah, it really depends. It depends on the project as well, because a lot of the times big companies will hire specifically for the project. And maybe the project is really animation heavy, so maybe they want at that moment they want to have more animators on, or maybe a project is assets heavy and it's just like a fly through or something, and it has minimum characters and minimum animation, but it has a lot of environments. So in that case, the environments artist will be more in demand. It just really depends on the studio and depends on the current project needs. Is Svemira asks, why you no visit no more? Because Corona. And because you have a girlfriend now. So yeah, I guess our relationship is done. Ooh, it's gonna probably kill me for this. Uh, all right. I think that's the most relevant stuff from Instagram, unless that's there's something else from maybe. Oh, I see. There's Charles. Um,
Tell me, when you're looking at works of people who are, trying to make their ways, struggling, and so on, and which is relevant to what you're doing and related to what you're doing, what's the most obvious and most usual mistakes you notice? I mean, I'm talking about people who are still, who are still not there but trying hard to be there. Do you notice something like right away very often? Uh,
I'm gonna, yeah. I mean, it's difficult to talk about this stuff. I guess I can only focus on the
I
on
mean,
kind of.
I don't want to give any example because I don't want to offend anyone, and
No, 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 no,
to
no, that's
show
fine.
exact work, but so I'm just like, if you
Sure,
can
sure.
open
No, no,
question.
but I mean, I can only talk about like my personal journey and like people maybe trying to do similar things. And I think a lot of the mistakes are kind of obsessing over the technical side of things, which in all honesty does not really matter. Like there hasn't been a single instance in my professional directing experience so far where my technical expertise kind of made the difference in the production. So it's all about being able to solve problems and being able to kind of think creatively and provide for different solutions. So if you are trying to make it as a director, and I would like most certainly you need to have work to show for yourself, and if that work looks nice, that's definitely a plus. But if having nice looking work, like beautiful renders or beautiful images, that amount to nothing in the end, that don't tell a single story or that don't evoke any emotion from the viewer, then that's like your job as a director is failed in that case, because you haven't done your job. You've just focused on the making the images look as beautiful as they can on a technical level. So I would definitely say like focus on the story and focus on the creative parts more than the actual technical bits of things. And that's something I'm trying to do as well. I mean, sometimes you just have to, but I mean, a lot of our films are far from perfect, man. Like, I mean, I know how people like see them as being like these kind of cool things, but I mean, to me, at least, I guess from my perspective, no, because I've made them, but I know all the mistakes and I see all of the stuff that I could have done better, but I just didn't have the time, or frankly, didn't have the desire to do so because I wasn't after that job. I wasn't after trying to make the most realistic render and getting a job as a lighting artist. I wanted to essentially be director, I guess. So yeah, I would say if you are just focusing on this, focus on the creative part first.
Yeah, so the conclusion is don't be stressed too much about becoming, for example, a 3D artist. If you want to be a 3D artist, think that think convince yourself that you want to be actually a carpenter, and then you'll be actually a good 3D artist,
Oh,
because
that could be a good route as well. We haven't even talked about Blender, man. I just seen a comment.
I'm avoiding it, man, because I mention it in every stream, and
That's fine.
I already started receiving complaints from people who are using, a proper software with quotes, and so because, and I mean, I can understand it because the fact that Blender is developing so fast and that it's becoming so amazing. I mean, it has been amazing for years, but it's really great application now. It doesn't mean that all the other commercial packages are becoming, less
Oh no.
good,
Oh no. No. That's definitely not the case. I mean, I'll say again from my experience. I mean, I absolutely fucking love Blender. I'll say that, and as clear as I possibly can.
Yeah.
I've started using it for previs, specifically for previs, for my commercial projects at Axis, and it's just been incredible. I unfortunately I can't show the stuff that I've done with it thus far, but I've made a couple of previses that the visual quality of them is so, like, it's so nicer than what I'm used to doing with previs. It's not like ugly models and ugly scenes. You actually have lighting. You actually have additional information that's super valuable. It makes you way more excited for the project when you can make those decisions so early on. Like, typically the previs is just about conveying the timing and the pacing of everything and kind of the rough idea of the cameras and the blocking. But now with Blender, I can actually have like lighting information that's very relevant towards how I actually want to light it towards the end of the project, and that's like massive for me. Like that's just insane. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to production, I still feel like it's not quite there. I mean, there's the issue of kind of scene complexity stuff. I've had scenes of just over 2 million polygons that just don't work. I can't press undo. So there's stuff like that, but it's just absolutely a joy to use for like simpler stuff, at least for me.
I totally agree, and I mean, what I mentioned before, I totally understand why people who are totally, devoted to other software, when they're creating their works, are kind of pissed off when they hear like tons and tons, like, why aren't you using Blender, and that kind of questions. But the truth is, for me also, like, using Blender, it's more like, like what you and guys did for the IFCC video together. Like, it's like competing inside of the team in making something and improving something, but the team is global and there's like thousands and thousands of people involved, and this is the advantage of the open source software, because it's just not commercial. You don't have to, it's different approach totally. So, and it's different community, and nobody gets mad because something is not working, and everyone wants to contribute. So, and in the end, it's like a really, really good package now.
It is. It's getting stronger by the day, and that's it's beautiful to see. So yeah, I just have like at least one more question I want to get to if you wanted to wrap this up. But I've seen a cool question from Momo from Learn Squared. So he said, I'd like to hear more about the story or script development. Do you approach cinematics with voiceover at Axis, and when does the score come in, etc. So if that's just strictly regarding the work at Axis, it depends. There's a couple of different categories. Sometimes you'll just have a script from the client and they would like to stick to it as closely as possible. Sometimes you'll have a script from the client that's very loose and then you can improve yourself. And then a lot of the times we'll just have completely open hands to do whatever we feel is fitting for the trailer. So that's kind of, I guess, the basic approach to that. A lot of that stuff is done if the script is open and the brief is open. A lot of that stuff will be done in the kind of the pitching phase. I don't want to get too ahead of myself because I'm actually not sure how much of this can I actually mention. But but yeah, there's definitely early development that happens and pre-production. There's various like studio support that you get. You oftentimes are not just working by yourself. And with the voiceover stuff, if there is voiceover, again, in I would say in 90% of the cases, the voiceover will be handled by the client because they've already been working on the game and they have all the voiceover stuff sorted and they have their own voiceover actors. So that would be, I would say, like high likelihood of happening on the client end. Um, and then what was the last one? Do, 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 do. When does the score come in? So again, different things. You can have a score that's a part of the brief, so it could be set in stone from the very get-go, and we could sort of, if it's like an existing, if it's not a score, if it's an existing song that they want to merge the trailer to, then we might have it from the very get-go, and we might edit towards that song from the very beginning with the animatics. But if it's score, it usually comes a bit later on. Again, in one of the projects that I've directed at Access, we've had is score the thing from sort of the very beginning where we had the previs. He started working on that from the very get-go, and it was kind of iterations as we went through. But yeah, it just again depends on the project. It's vastly different scenarios are kind of available. Um, how are you doing, Marco? You wanna you
No, no,
wanna keep
it's all
this going?
fine.
You
It's all
wanna?
fine. It's I told you already. You give me a sacred sign when you're like totally tired and washed up, and I'll just pretend that I have to go somewhere and stop this thing. But I'm totally fine at the moment.
Cool, cool. All right, I'll do maybe a
Uh,
couple more.
let me jump in with my question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Full featured films, and I mean, what kind of? I mean, do you see yourself as a director of the like real like movie for I don't know like something like maybe Netflix or even something that will go in cinema and is this something that you would be like you would like to do in the future? Were there any talks about that? Do you have the capacity to do like a film? A movie?
I'm gonna say I would very much like to do a real movie and not fake movies like we've done thus far.
Yeah, but because you remember the reactions after the I
Sure,
won't
sure,
mention
yeah.
the name of the festival and but of that short film, and I
Yeah.
remember people were actually asking for full features film. They were actually asking for when will this be transformed into a real thing. So I just
Yeah, well,
remembered like is this idea still live?
well, hopefully someday it will be. I mean that is definitely something I'm working towards and building myself towards. I love animation, but I would absolutely love to do live action stuff as well. But it's a process that lasts for many years. One of the first things that actually happened, we've talked about this with IFCC, is even before Access contacted me, I've had this kind of introduction to the whole kind of Hollywood world of pitching for films and talking with producers and managers and agents. And that's the really your kind of foot in, but it's not something that kind of happens immediately. It's a lot of development. It's a lot of back and forth process. And I still like I'm working towards that, but it's something that just takes a lot of time. So yes, I would absolutely love to do that. We'll see when that happens.
Okay. So in the background, we're actually seeing that pre-IFCC movie, which is not the pre-IFCC movie. It's just the film. It's just the film that happened before the IFCC, and which I was totally blown away by. I'll repeat it. Let me just do this manually. And I was like totally impressed by what you guys did here. I was like, wow, how is this possible? So I was totally blown away. I screw with it now because I manually have to fix everything here. I'm going nuts.
That's fine.
I thought this would be working like much better in with Vimeo. Anyways, yeah. Anyways, okay. You have seen it in the background, guys. So that was the film that made me wanna ask. Sava and others, to join the event as one of the speakers as a team. You were actually on the stage as a team of speakers. You did a group talk.
Yeah, we did a breakdown of the whole project, but it was, I mean, that Twitch thing that you're talking about now, that's one of the advices that I give to people is if you try to do something like this, you really need to go like step by step. You can't just, unless you're like crazy talented and experienced, you can't just go into making your first short just out of nothing. You have to build up towards it. And with us, especially in CG, that Twitch thing really kind of helped just kind of get our heads in the whole kind of 3D space and not 3D space, but character pipeline space. And that's the most unknown thing that we had to deal with. Once we've done that on Twitch, we knew how to apply that to the IFCC, so everything was much easier. So yeah, that's kind of it. Oh, that's my old phone case commercial that's still up on my Behance. That's really old, but
never mind.
Well, that's fun. That's fun still.
But it's cool to see. It's cool to see what has happened in the meantime.
Yep.
So maybe this will be like a motivation for others who are doing phone cases in 3D.
Yeah. I'll just answer one more. I've seen one interesting question from Ian. He said, as a director, you deal with the script, storyboarding, and finding all the references. Is there anything else that you do on top of the role of an art director? So yes, it essentially depends on how you like to work. You have to deal with the script. That's definitely a part of your job. Storyboarding, whether you're going to do it specifically or not, depends on your drawing skills. If you're comfortable with drawing, that's a massive plus. And if you can board out your shots by yourself, that's just amazing because you don't have to translate it to anybody else. I don't. I've had, again, my art university days are far behind me, so I haven't been drawing for years. And I've at every project that I worked on at Access, I've had a storyboarder assigned to me so I can work with them. That's super helpful as well, especially if you click with a storyboarder and you can kind of have this dialogue back and forth. It works really well. But I do like to do my edits, so I do take all the boards from them and I make my own edits. Sometimes you can work with an editor as well. And I typically work with an editor, especially because the editor is not just making the edit. You're seeing the piece you're making from his point of view as well, and he is a vital part of the process. So I do my first rough edits just to kind of get the picture across. But then I will definitely see the editor's point of view, and we'll have these discussions and kind of how we can improve the piece. All the references, absolutely. You are kind of dependent on to find all the visual references, but then a lot of that is getting offloaded to your art director as well. So you might be the initial kind of conversation that you're having with the art director is just finding the rough kind of idea of what you're looking for, but then the art director gets to have that section, and you're kind of offloading your work to your art director. And he gets to kind of take care of the visual parts as well. Again, it all depends on what kind of a director you are and how you like to work. There's directors with art backgrounds and with concept art backgrounds, and they like to do their own images as well, which is, again, amazing if you can do that. I would say like my biggest contribution to the whole kind of pipeline would be previs, because I'm fairly versed in 3D and I can do my previses fairly fast to a point where they could be used in the pipeline. So that's something that kind of I contribute to the project. But again, it's also like supported by the whole layout and previous team as well. So it's pretty much depends on you and depends on what are your advantages as a director and what do you want to do on the project as well. Maybe you don't want to be completely hands-on involved with all of those tasks. Maybe you want to rely on your team more, and that's completely fine. It just depends on how do you want to run your production, and that's kind of it.
So you managed to keep some parts of your old workflow and transfer it into your Axis animation workflow.
Sorry, what was the question?
Did you manage to keep some of your old workflow before you came to Axis and transfer it there, or did
Not really,
not really? Huh?
not really. It's mostly again like a lot of the things because again, Axis is a professional large studio. They have their own pipeline, very well developed. Um, so a lot of my stuff that I do at my home office doesn't really transfer all that well. But it is just the previs, the ability for me to do the previs and have the cameras that I want to do and the compositions do on my own and not have to go back and forth because that's the thing that kind of really takes a lot of time is just going back and forth with the team and just kind of I guess translating your thoughts into the production. When you have the ability to do your own previs, it immediately bridges that gap and makes everything crystal clear what we need to do. And then it's sort of a process of recreating what I've done on their end, which saves time immensely.
Cool.
So yeah, for my secret signed, if you wanna if you wanna end this now, you can.
Okay, guys. So something happened here in our headquarters, and we'll have to finish this. Yeah, Sava, thanks a lot for joining. I could talk like this for hours and hours.
Yeah,
And
but I have to have some dinner as well.
no, you don't have to. I have to.
Yeah,
And we'll be together soon in less than a month, in 25 days, I think,
yeah,
or something like that. Yeah,
in the online
in the
space.
online space where production should be a bit better than this, where I do everything alone because we have a team ready for the IFCC 2020, and of course I have to announce use the opportunity to announce the event. So it should be really great. 60 plus speakers, instructors, demo artists so far, and really amazing. Together I got this cool looking visual from which is totally different category by an artist called Amin Faramarzian, who was with us in 2017, I think, as well. And I was just blown away by his style. I love his style, so check him on the Instagram. So he'll also join us again, and as I said, like 60 plus other guys, like 2D, 3D directors, obviously, and others. So check our website, IFCC Croatia.com, and find out more about it. Don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter. Don't forget to subscribe to any of our channels. I don't know where you're watching this from, YouTube, Twitch, or whatever. And if you have any questions, you can contact me directly. You can write to me. If we're friends on Facebook or elsewhere, you can write to me directly, or just send us an email. Sava, thanks a lot. We'll be in touch, and I don't know if you want to add something.
No, that's pretty much it. I think we went overboard with the time. I'm just getting messages from my friends who are bored to death by listening to me for so long.
Okay.
But yeah, so yeah, see you online, and I would say yeah, check out IFCC online. It's gonna have a lot of great content. So yeah.
Okay. I'm counting. 3, 2, 1. I'm stopping this.